Beruchim haboim, welcome everyone. We're about to begin together. Be'ezras Hashem on Daf Chov Dalid Amud Aleph, the last line, the very bottom. Rabbi Chanina had told us testimony about Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi that he hung his tefillin. The Gemara clarified it didn't mean he hung his tefillin. That would be a bizayin to fit the tefillin. Rather, he hung the nartik that the tefillin were inside of, and therefore he took that bag and he hung the bag with the tefillin inside on a hook. That is mutter. That is permissible. Now, Rabbi Chanina gives us other testimony how Rabbi Davin, the Shmona Esrei, different aspects that he had witnessed. Says the Gemara, V'omer Rabbi Chanina ani ra'isi as Rabbi shehigihek. I noticed that Rabbi had burped, upihek, or he yawned, v'nis atesh, sneezed, v'rok, and he spit. All of this is during the Shmona Esrei in his tefillah. Umimashmesh bebigdoi. And he removed a kina, a lice that had bit him. He removed it with his beged. If his talis would fall down, he wouldn't pick it up and wear it once again in the middle of Shmon Esrei. When he did yawn, he would put his hand on his chin over his mouth in order to cover his yawn. Ask the Gemara from the following brisa. Meisvei hamashmiya koiloi bitfilosoi. I'll read the whole brisa in its entirety first. Hareze mekatne amona. Hamagbiya koilo bitfiloso hareze minevia sheker. Megahek umefahek. Hareze megasi haruach. Hamisatesh bitfiloso simin raloi. V'yesham nika shehu mechuar. Harok bitfiloso kilu rok bifnei hamelech. Let's go through the brisa again. The brisa says, "Hamashmiya kol b'tfiloso harei ze mekatnei amon." A person who wants to make his voice heard, in other words, he raises his voice while he's davening, then it's as if he is somebody who is mekatnei amona. Because he needs to make his voice heard, it's not just good enough to then whisper in his tefillah, as if HaKadosh Baruch Hu cannot hear his whisper. If he raises his voice loudly, it's as if he's Nevi'ah Sheker. Nevi'ah Sheker, the people who would be Oved Avodah Zarah, they would scream out in a loud voice to their deity. If a person would sneeze, that's the way the Gemara understands at this point, in his tefillah, so that's considered to be a simin ra. This, they explain, is going back on Megahek Mefahek, which we said is a simin ralo. I've skipped. Megahek Mefahek Hareza Megasi Haruach. That's considered to be arrogant if a person yawns or if he burps. Hamisashet Betfilosoi simin raloi. A person who sneezes, the Gemara understands at this point again that we're talking about somebody who sneezes at the simin ra. V'yesh oimim nikesh shehu mechua is going back on megahek mefayik, somebody who burps or somebody who yawns. That's considered to be mechua, not nice. Harok betfilaso kilu rok b'fnei hamelech. A person who spits on tefillah, that's considered to be spitting in front of the king. You're standing in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu when you're davening. Says the Gemara, Mishlama, to explain how this is not a contradiction to what Rebbe did. Mishlama megahek mefahek lokasho. It's understood that when he burped or when he yawned, that's not a kasha to this, what he did, because kan la oinsoy, kan la ritzoinoi. When he did it ba'oines. It was against his will. However, in regards to the Bryce over here, it says it was done by ritzono. Therefore, it was considered to be gasei haruach. Ela misatesh a misatesh kasha. But that which he is misatesh, that's difficult. Says the Gemara, misatesh a misatesh namilo kasha. That's also not difficult. Kan milamala kan milamato. When Rebbe, he did it, he sneezed. Over here in the Bryce, it refers to him being mafiach, passing gas. Says the Gemara, the Omer of Zero, Hamilsa Ivloi Li Beirav Hamnuna. He brings over here how sneezing was a maila. He says, when I was in the house of Rav Hamnuna, meaning in the Beis HaMedrash of Rav Hamnuna, V'takila li kuli talmudoi. All of my Talmud, all of my learning was chaviva. Amongst that was the knowledge about sneezing, because I used to sneeze a lot, and I was told hamisatesh betfilaso simin yafeloi. If a person sneezes in the middle of his tefillah, it's considered to be a good simin. Keshem she'oisin lo nachas ruach melamato, kach oisin lo nachas ruach milamala. Just like when a person sneezes, he gets a good feeling, so too lamala is considered to be a nachas ruach as well. Ela roik aroik kasha. But roik, when he spat, that which is in the Brisa, it says spitting is a problem. It says you're spitting before the king. That's difficult. So we answered up when it comes to somebody who burps, or he yawns, or even sneezes. Those are things that are ba'ones, and therefore no problem. But when it comes to something that is spitting, and something spitting before the king, that's a difficulty. How do we explain that? Says the Gemara, Roik arok nami lo kasho, Efshar k'di Rav Yehuda, Dom Rav Yehuda haya oimed b'tfila, v'nizdamin lo rok, mavliya b'talisoy. He would take the rok that was in his mouth that was disturbing his tefillah, and he put it into his beged. And v'im taliso noehu mavliu ba'afar kususoy. However, if that's something that he can't do because he's wearing a beged, his talis, which is noeh, so then he could put it in his sudar. Ravina havakoy acharoi de Rab Ashi. Okay, and therefore our situation of Rebbe was that he didn't spit on the floor like we thought. That would be considered to be a bizoyon, that he's spitting in front of the king. Here, instead, he spit in his beged. Ravina havakoy acharei de Rav Ashi. He was standing behind Rav Ashi, nizdamin lo roik patke la'acharei. So he turned his face and he spit behind him. Omar leilo savar lomar lohod Rav Yehuda mavliu ba'afar kususoy. Do you not hold the Rav Yehuda that says you can put it in your sudar? Omar anna anina daitoi. I am somebody who's an istanis, and for me it's disgusting to do that. I can't look at such a thing and do such a thing, and therefore this is the appropriate behavior. Says the Gemara, quoting the part of the Mishnah that says the Brisa that says Hamashmiya koila b'tfilosoi harezi mekatnei amona. If a person makes heard his tefillah beyond just his own ears, right? That's considered to be mikatnei amona. Says the Gemara to qualify. Omer Rav Huna lo shanu ele sheyachol lechavein es libu belachash. We're talking about when a person is able to mechavein his tefillah belachash, then he shouldn't be mashmiya kolo beyond the minimum of where he should lechatchila have those words being heard by his own ears. Aval ein yachol lechavein es libu belachash muter. But if he cannot mechavein properly, when he's just whispering those words, then he can even make his words heard. V'hani mili, but when is this true b'yochid? When he's by himself, then he can then mashmiya es koloi. Aval b'tzibur asi lemitri tzibura. But if he's with the tzibur, he'll be then matrid, he'll disturb the tzibur around him, and therefore he cannot do so. Says the Gemara, the following Maisa, Rabbi Abba havakom shtamit minei de Rav Yehuda, the havakom boy lemesek la'ari d'Yisrael. Rabbi Abba would try to avoid Rav Yehuda because he wanted to go to Eretz Yisrael, and Rav Yehuda was against going to Eretz Yisrael at the time. Dom Rav Yehuda, for Rav Yehuda said, Kol ha'oila mi Bavel Eretz Yisrael oiver be'esei. Person leaves Bavel to go to Eretz Yisrael, he's oiver a mitzvah aseh shneimar, as it states in the pasuk, Bavel la yuvo v'shama yu al yoim pokti oisom num Hashem. Omar, he said, Ozil the ashma minei milsa mi beis vada v'hada apik. I'll go from the outside and listen to his divrei Torah from his Beis HaMedrash, and then I'll go up to Eretz Yisrael. Ozil ashkechei letana diktoni kamei de Rav Yehuda. He found that they were teaching the following in the Beis Medrash in front of Rav Yehuda. Haya oimed betfila v'nisatesh mamtin ashi yichle haruach v'choizem ispalel. And he overheard Rav Yehuda teaching that if a person is standing in tefillah and he has to then pass gas, he should wait until it dissipates, and then he should go ahead and daven. That means if he wasn't able to hold himself back, then indeed he should wait until it passes, and then afterwards, when there's no more reyach, then he should go and daven, continue his davening. There are those that say, where a person needed to then pass gas, that instead, if a person needs to, he can anticipate that he needs to, then what he should do is he should stand 4 amos behind him and wait until it passes, and then return to tefillah. V'oimen should say the following words as a tefillah, even in the middle of his Shmona Esrei: Ribono shel olam, yitzarteinu nikovim nikovim chalulim chalulim, golu v'yadu lefanecha chirpaseinu v'chlimaseinu. It's known before you our disgrace and our humiliation, that we have to do this. Our body is considered to be chamur. We have chumrius. B'chayenu u'b'achriseinu, both in this world, in this lifetime, and beyond. Rima v'toilo, there will be worms even beyond this world when our body is decomposed. U'matchil mimakom sheposak, and then he should continue to davening in the place where he left off. Omar lei, so he said to himself, Ilu lo basi ela lishma davar zeh, if I only came to hear this matter from Rav Yehuda, it would be sufficient. Says the Gemara. Now the Gemara speaks about a different subject. When a person wants to say Kriya Shema in a situation where he's lying in bed, and again, they used to lie in bed when they went to sleep, they went to sleep Orum. Says the Gemara with a brayse, Tanu Rabbanan, Hayayashim b'tialisoi ve'ino yachol lo hitzia es roisho mipnei atzina. He's lying in bed, but because it's cold, he could not then get out of the bed. He wasn't able to then take out his head from the bed. So what should he do? Because of the cold, choitet b'talisa al tzavoroi ve'kar Kriya Shema. It says over here that he should instead take the talis and he should put it against his neck so that his eyes don't see his erva, and read the Kriya Shema. The others say that he should put it on his heart, on his chest, or below his chest, in order to then separate from his eyes to his, not only his eyes, but from his lave to his erva. But according to the first opinion that says that he just puts it on his neck, his lave will still see his erva, asks the Gemara. Says the Gemara, no, kesaver libo royas ha'erva mutar. According to his opinion, that when the heart sees the erva, that's mutar. But of course, the second opinion says that's also, and therefore you have to cover your heart, your chest, or below, so that not only do the eyes not see the erva, but even the lave does not see the erva. Says the Gemara, when a person is traveling, he's walking through streets, places, alleyways that are dirty, that might have either ketanim or tsoya on them. While he's walking, he should close and cover his mouth and say Kriya Shema. He can say Kriya Shema in that way. He makes a shvua. If Rabbi Yochanan would say this teaching to me, I would not listen to him. I would not say Kriya Shema while I'm walking through such an alleyway. There are those that say a similar situation. Omar Rabbi Bachana, Omar Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi. Haymahalech bebevuas habetunafos. Meniach yoda al pi v'kar Kriya Shema. If a person is walking again through the alleyway, he should cover his mouth. He can cover his mouth and say Kriya Shema. Omar le Rav Chizda. This time it's Rav Chizda that says Hayelokim. Im Omar li Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi bepume lo yitzayisina le. If Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi told me this teaching in front of me, I would not pay attention to his words. Umiyam Rav Huna hochi, asked the Gemara that which Rav Huna had said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, that if a person is walking through this dirty alleyway, he can cover his mouth and say Kriya Shema. Did Rav Huna say these words? V'ham Rav Huna, Talmid Chacham asur lo la'amod b'makom hamitunafes. A Talmid Chacham cannot stand even in a dirty alleyway. Why? Because he wouldn't be able to stand without thinking about Torah, and that would be prohibited to think about Divrei Torah in a makom that is metunaf. Says the Gemara, V'amar Rav Yehuda, Lo kasha, kan be'oimei ka b'mahalech. Says the Gemara, there's a difference. Here, when he says that Talmid Chacham cannot stand in a dirty place because he'll be mahar and divrei Torah, that's because he's standing. It says, "B'machanecha," your machaneh will be kadosh, and therefore your machaneh in where you're situated in a position of standing or sitting, that's a problem. But if you're mahalech, kan b'mahalech, if you're walking through, then you don't have the problem of having tzoya in your machaneh. Says the Gemara, Bi'omar Rabbi Yochanan Hachi. Now the Gemara says that which Rav Huna said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, this teaching, that a person can walk through a makom metunaf like an alleyway, and he can cover his mouth and say Kriya Shema. Did Rabbi Yochanan say that? Ask the Gemara. The Omar Rabbi Bar Chana Omar Rabbi Yochanan, B'kol makom mutar lahar b'divrei Torah. Everywhere you can think in divrei Torah, chutz mibeis hamerchatz beis hakisei, and therefore this is also similar to a beis hakisei. So how could you say that Rabbi Yochanan said this teaching? You'll say this distinction that we just made with Rav Huna, that when it comes to sitting or standing in a place, when you're stationary, that's when it's problematic. But when you're walking, then we don't say b'machanecha is kadosh. We say that here you're walking. Says the Gemara, Eini, is that so? Is that the same chiluk? He was walking behind Rabbi Yochanan. And he was reading Kriya Shema. And when Rabbi Avua got to a makom hamutanafos, like an alleyway that was dirty, he stopped saying Kriya Shema as he was walking. He asked Rabbi Yochanan, his Rabbi, where do I return? Where do I then continue my Kriya Shema from where I left off? What do I do? If you waited long enough where you could have said the entire Kriya Shema, then you go back to the beginning. No, you got it wrong. This is what Rabbi Yochanan had said to him. According to my own opinion, lo svirli, I don't hold that you had to stop to say Kriya Shema in this dirty alleyway, because while you're walking, you can say Kriya Shema, because again, you're not stationary. But according to you, the svir loch im shahisa kedei ligmas kulo chazilosh. But according to you, that you had to stop, according to your own opinion, if you did stop in a period of time that it was kedei ligmas kula to finish the entire and complete the entire Kriya Shema, then you must repeat the Kriya Shema from the beginning. Tanya kavose de Rav Hanuna, Tanya kavose de Rav Chisda. We have a brisa like Rav Huna, and we have a brisa like Rav Chisda. We have a brisa like Rav Huna that said in the Rabbi Yochanan that one can say Kriya Shema while he's walking through a makom that's metunaf. But we also have a brisa like Rav Chisda that said it is osir. Says the Gemara, Tani kavasi de Rav Huna, like it says, Hamahalech b'mevuas hamitunafos miniach yoder al pi v'yikra Kriya Shema. Tani kavasi de Rav Chisda, Hayamahalech b'mevuas hamitunafos lo yikra Kriya Shema v'lo oid ela she'im haya karei uba poisek. Not only that, but if he does read Kriya Shema, then he should stop. Ask the Gemara, Loi posuk mai. What happens if he did not stop? What is the din? Om Rabbi Miyashe bar Bered Rav Yoshua ben Levi, Alov akasav oimer. On him the posuk says, V'gam ani nosati lohem chukim loi toivim umishpatim lo yichyu bohem. I gave them chukim. For them it's not toivim. Umishpatim then lo yichyu bohem. They will not live in them, because they're not then following the chukim properly. Therefore they will not live in these chukim. Rabbi Asi Omar have a moishche hoy moishche ha'oven bechavli hashav. Whoa, because they are pulling a chevel of oven. That means they're taking a chevel that is loose. They're taking a rope that will then snap easily, a rope of oven, of iniquity, and it's going to snap and fall on themselves. Rav Ada bar Ava Omar mehocha ki dvar Hashem boza. The Dvar Hashem, which is the Kriya Shema, they are mimavazeh, because they're then saying in a place that is inappropriate to say the Kriya Shema. The imposek my schoro, if he does stop, what is going to be his reward? Says the Gemara, Amar Babo, Alov akosav oimer, ubedvar hazeh tarichu yomim. He'll be zoiche to arichus yomim.